how are you doing? We're out here in a rainy day in Arizona, and today there's a lot of things to cover. But before we get into it, Jose, I have a couple of different icebreaker questions. Let's do you have any weekend plans?
Sleep. I wanna sleep. That's when you get into your adult, over mid 30s, when you're looking forward to sleep, quiet nights, playing with your dogs, brunch, those generic stuff. I thought that was a lie when I was starting. I was like, these people are just the movies. No, it's reality. That's what seems I want to do. I just want to sleep. And yourself?
I don't think I've made any weekend plans, but my brother is coming to town, so I want to see him, and I'm excited about that. Okay, so there's a lot of things that have happened since last time we did a live together, but today we're mainly going to focus on two topics. We're going to have two segments. One of them is going to be around the Department of Education. There's been some news around that, and the other thing about the ongoing litigation of the DACA case. As always, if you have questions, make sure you drop them in the chat. We have people in the back end from our Aliento team who are going to be monitoring those questions, so feel free to put them in the chat. If you're not seeing this live, make sure you still drop them. We will be answering them later. And if you like this content, make sure you share it on your Instagram. We are also doing this content 100% en español, but we're doing that in Facebook. So if you're not following us on Facebook or you want to send it to a friend, make sure you tell them to go see us on Facebook. Va a ser completamente en español en Facebook, entonces vayan para allá. Anything else that I'm missing, Jose, before we get to it?
No.
No? Okay, I don't even want to start a discussion on this because it's just heavy, but I know that this week we heard that the Department of Education, that the Trump administration decided to technically fire close to 1,000, a little bit over 1,000 people that work at the Department of Education. So can you tell us a little bit about like what happened, give us a little bit of a synthesis, and how is this gonna really impact students? That's the thing that I care the most about.
Yeah, no, so it's something that was in the plans of Project 2025. It's something that for years and years Republicans at the federal level have run on dismantling three agencies, which is the Commerce, the EPA, and the Department of Education. Mm-hmm. It seems now that finally Trump's second term that he's actually going to follow through. As you mentioned, about 1,300 or half of the staff of the Department of Education were laid off. The Department of Education at the federal level, the way it does, it provides between 10 to 15% of the funding for states. The majority of the funding for public education comes from the states through local and state taxes.
I think that that's a really great important distinction. From my conversations, many people don't understand what the Department of Education does. I was even hearing some myths that people think that one, they fund the whole schools, and then the other things that they dictate curriculum. Is that a myth or is that a bust?
So both of them are myths. The U.S. has a decentralized system in terms of public education. Other countries, it is always federal, mm-hmm. and then the curriculum starts at the federal level and it goes down to the provinces. The U.S. has independence, mm-hmm. part of the sort of the Constitution, how everything was set up. As you mentioned, the Department of Education at the federal level doesn't dictate curriculum. What they have done in the past, like mm-hmm. for example, under the Bush administration or with Don't Child Left Behind, the Obama administration, Race to the Top, is they do incentivize, mm-hmm. create certain program and grants for specific programs or ideas that certain states or districts want to implement. But the main thing that they do right now, like the majority of the funding comes from, is during the financial aid.
And then they also, from my understanding, please correct me if I'm wrong, they're also in charge of being able to protect the civil rights of students, especially if there's a student with special needs or disabilities and the schools are not providing the appropriate accommodations or modifications. They're supposed to be protecting the students' rights in that way. Is that correct?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, the big pieces, like, as you know, you think about student loans, mm-hmm. Going to college, Pell Grants, those pieces. And the other piece, other big large piece is around Title I students, mm-hmm. those who are low-income students, predominantly Latino students as well. And then, as you mentioned, those who may need a IEP plan, special accommodations to be able to satisfy their needs. So those are the two big pieces, right? It's around higher education is financial aid funding. And the other second piece is how to protect and ensure that the rights of marginalized students, whether they be low-income students or students with disabilities, are actually served. So that concern for a lot of individuals have, because a lot of specifically here in Arizona, but across the country is, when we look in terms of academic achievement, the majority of those students who traditionally struggle are low-income students, low-income communities, or communities that have large proportions of students with disabilities, and depending on the level. So right now, as it stands, all that's at least the plan is to send it to the states, which gives, if you're a state's rights, I think you will support that. If you question whether your state would actually support the students as needed, then you probably are going to be against the Trump position of reshifting the education system at the federal level.
As an organization that deeply cares about students, how is this going to impact students, Jose?
Well, you won't see an immediate impact right now. I think the first thing that we're going to see is right now is FAFSA season. So students, make sure to complete the FAFSA.
Please do it. Do it sooner than later, because if they have less personnel, it's probably going to take them more time to decide.
Yeah, so I think if you run into issues, which would be student relations that we serve, whether their families complete the FAFSA, or there's taxes, or any of the sort of things, I think that's going to impact the families. And traditionally, it's going to be families with diverse backgrounds, multiple ethnicities, and then also low-income students. So I foresee that our students that we work with, which a lot of them are Title I districts, are going to be negatively impacted.
Yes, so this was supposed to be an education segment, but everything is interconnected. So if you haven't filed your taxes, make sure you do it. Deadline is approaching. There's a saying in Spanish, don't let what you can do today, don't let it do it for tomorrow. It sounds weird in Spanish for my English speakers, so hopefully you'll get it if you're bilingual. But then also make sure that you are submitting your FAFSA. I think that that's really excellent advice, Jose, because it might take them longer now that they have less personnel. Before I move into the next segment, Jose, let's wrap it up about, are there any other ripple effects that you foresee or you think that it will happen because of these layoffs or these new structures within the Department of Education?
Yeah, there's a lot of even nonprofits like ourselves, universities who seek grants to the Department of Education, and that's not clear how that's going to work moving forward, whether there's still going to be maybe some funding for that or some programs, or are those funding are just going to be sent to the state and then you have to then apply within the state. There's still a lot of questions that we have. Again, the Department of Education was created in the 1970s. It took years and decades to build the systems into place, and right now we're seeing a wind down of it. And that's going to be scary. The other piece of it, I think, that is going to be more worrisome is specifically last year we saw all the issues that happened with FAFSA and all the need. And like getting to a human, talking to a human in Department of Education was really helpful, because sometimes the chatbots or the telemarketers were not helpful.
Yeah, they were not answering our questions.
Yeah, because
we're like, that's not what we're asking, ChatGPT.
I wonder, and I think a lot of people are foreseeing that there's going to be a lot of issues because we're not going to be able to have the human power to be able to support answers that only humans right now are capable of doing. We're not there in technology and AI, so I think that would be the place that I'm most worried.
Yes, and then again, this is a developing story. This just happened this week, so we are monitoring closely. We'll be coming to you with more updates. I know that there's also some questions that technically the Trump administration or the presidency doesn't really have the powers to do that without really the guidance from Congress. So I know that there's going to be a lot of this like push and pull between like what are the president powers, what are the congressional powers. So that's still unfolded. So TBD, make sure you catch us on our next live and we'll have updates with the most accurate information. Moving into the next segment, take a deep breath in, let it out. This is for the audience. If you want to do it too, come on. But I know that DACA has been like a roller coaster of emotions. It becomes really complicated because first DACA was a memo, then it became a regulation, and then in between there were so many lawsuits. So there was a couple of news that we heard today about the developments of one of the lawsuits coming out of Texas. So more of a decision around the Texas lawsuit, there was a decision and they went all the way to the Fifth Circuit. So that's kind of where we are right now. But there were some news about the DACA program this week. So Jose, I know with all the ups and downs, that's what I said. Inhaling, let it out. Um, what does this decision mean? What do we know? What is still unknown? And if I am a DACA recipient or I want to apply for DACA for the first time, or if I was one of the 100,000 DACA recipients that was stuck in the program, can you please like break it down? Let's go little by little by. Tell us first what happened.
Yeah, so with everything that is happening, I think kind of DACA has fallen to the side in the news cycle, and this is I think a good time to do an update. The other piece I think I want to sneak in is that the Biden administration created a DACA rule for the Affordable Care Act, or the Obamacare, and it came into effect earlier this year. The Trump administration is winding down that rule. So we'll also see that the Trump administration doesn't want DACA recipients to have access to the Affordable Care Act.
So since you're going into this, Jose, just to clarify, everything that you just said about that they're trying to unwind the program, so then right now if I'm a DACA recipient and I qualify for the Affordable Care Act or the Obamacare, can I still apply or not anymore since they're doing the wind down?
You would for now, but you'll have it for a couple months and then most likely you won't have it. Again, that's within the power of the administration. Again, going back to Trump one during his first term, multiple judges and the Supreme Court said that the executive branch, aka the president, has the power to create a program like DACA and to end it. So the Trump administration wants to end the program of DACA. They just have to follow the rules to do so, which they didn't do in Trump one. So now, if we go back to the case that we're talking about, on January 17th, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals gave a decision. It's a little confusing decision, but basically they said is that they believe the DACA program itself is unlawful. However, based on what was presented by the plaintiffs, Texas was the only one who can provide standing, that they were negatively impacted by having DACA recipients be eligible to get driver's license in Texas. So what happened, and there still needs to be some guidance because they basically said, DHS, USAIS, this is the rule, you need to provide guidance for folks. But the currently understood interpretation of most individuals is that if you have DACA status, you can still renew.
So me, hey, DACA recipient, if you still have your DACA, you can still renew it.
Yeah. The other piece is, if you live in Texas, you're a DACA recipient, you should not be, if you were to renew, you should not receive your employment authorization document because it's considered benefits.
And Texas is one of the largest states with the most DACA
It's
populations. It's the second one. So that's going to impact a huge proportion of DACA recipients. So if you are a DACA recipient living in Texas, we encourage you to go and talk to an attorney about how this can potentially impact your renewal. If you haven't submitted your renewal yet and you are pending on renewing it, we would highly recommend for you to speak to an attorney at this moment.
And then the last piece is, if you're a first-time DACA recipient, even in the state of Texas, according to the ruling, it's, and again, we're providing guidance for USCIS, but USCIS should process your application. And if you're in Texas, technically speaking, you should still get the protection of deportation, but you wouldn't receive the work authorization. So again, we're waiting for USCIS to provide guidance. A similar thing for folks, a similar thing happened in 2020.
Before you go there, I think that is important because you just said something that I just want to make sure that people who don't know as much as you do that get it, they decouple it, right? So for example, if I'm a Texas streamer with DACA, I still technically, I have the protection from deportation, but what I will not be able to get is the work permit to work, right? That's what technically this new ruling is what it said, right?
That's our interpretation. However, USCIS and DHS has not provided guidance. And as I mentioned before, in November, when basically the courts ordered that, hey, you need to reopen the DACA program, it took several weeks until early December before the courts compel USCIS to provide a process for first-time applications. So I foresee the same thing happening, that somebody, an organization, a nonprofit, or institution has to sue the federal government to provide guidance. And if I'm putting myself in the Trump shoes and Stephen Miller shoes, I would, at the same time as this is going on, I would try to figure out a way to unwind the DACA program, or ask the Supreme Court to expedite the court case. Because Stephen Miller and members within the Trump administration have expressed their displeasure and disapproval with the DACA program itself.
Okay, so little recap. The things that you should know. One, there was a decision coming from the Fifth Circuit that they're trying to decouple that, saying whether you can maybe be protected from deportation but not get a work permit. We do not have guidance from USCIS or the Department of Homeland Security. So that's why it is really critical that we're not jumping the gun and then we're not saying whether you don't qualify or you qualify or you should apply or not. Let's not jump the gun. We still need to have those guidance. In the past, we know that by precedent, as Jose mentioned, is that it's not as easy for them to provide guidance unless there's potentially more litigation demanding that there were to be guidance about how is this going to be implemented, because that's what courts cannot do. Courts cannot tell the department of how to implement it. They can just say, this is how you need, this is why we are telling you that is the law or not the law, and then they need to come up with the process. So that process has not been determined yet. So if you are a DACA recipient, please continue to renew it. If you are a potential candidate for the DACA program or first applicant, or your DACA application was stuck, please stay posted on the news, stay posted with Aliento, because as soon as we hear guidance from USCIS, we would discuss with you. If you are a dreamer, a DACA recipient, or a potential DACA candidate applicant for the first time, or were stuck in the DACA program, in Texas, make sure that you do seek some legal counsel, as this thing might have a more direct impact on you in the shortcoming. Again, we don't know how this is gonna unwind, so we just want to make sure that you are understanding that something happened, but the details, where the devil is in the details, we still are pending, correct?
Correct. And just the Trump administration, when they had to be forced to, by the courts or by greater power, to implement something that they don't agree with. That's how they typically have worked, and Trump won, and the same has been true in the first 8 weeks. So it's just something for us to know, and don't get too anxious, don't get too excited, don't get too low, stay even keel. I'm just gonna check to see if you have any comments.
Okay, as you are checking the comments, I'm just going to say that if you want to renew your DACA, we do help you here at Aliento. You don't have to be in Arizona. You can go to alientoec.org/DACA, and you'll be able to schedule an appointment with us virtually so we can support you and also make sure that you are going with other folks. We are actually wrapping it up, so if you have any questions, feel free to drop them out. Jose, did you have any questions live? No, so if you're watching this afterwards, make sure that you drop the questions on the comments, maybe about future topics that you want us to discuss. I know I've been super overwhelmed with all the news that are coming up, so hopefully we do a little recap once a week on 20 minutes about things that matter to you. So thank you all so much. I hope you all have a great day. See you next time.
See ya.
Bye. Say goodbye, Jose. Hey.